Hello, everyone. This is Natalie with South Central Kansas Economic Development District. Today, we are bringing you a discussion on how personal credit affects your small business applications. Today, I'm very happy that Raven Dixon and her colleagues, both Rodney and Aaron, are here with us from the Consumer Credit Counseling Service. I refer a lot of people to their office and to their program throughout the application process. And so today we just wanted to team up and kind of volley off of each other and share with you our knowledge. So again, my name is Natalie. I have my colleague here, Tyler Ward. Many of you who are going through the application process work with Tyler.
Hi, everyone. Glad we're able to host this, and hopefully that you get a lot out of this training session.
And then Raven, would you like to introduce yourself and your staff?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Raven Dixon. I am CEO President of Consumer Credit Counseling. We have two offices, Wichita and Salina. I have with me Aaron, who is in our Wichita office, and I'll let him introduce himself a little bit more when he comes on. And we have Rodney from our Salina office here as well.
Well, thank you, everyone. In today's discussion, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the overview of SCED and then the overview of consumer credit counseling services. And then we're going to get into the topic of today's discussion. And that's really how the personal credit process affects your application for a loan. After that, we'll just kind of go through and maybe discuss some particular projects that we've seen recently. And most importantly, Raven will give you some information about how to connect with their program and benefit from their resources. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and get started. South Central Kansas Economic Development District, or also commonly referred to as SCED, is celebrating their 50 years of organization this year. So we're very excited about that. We impact the state of Kansas in three ways. So we are providing weatherization services to low-income families throughout the state. We're also providing grant writing services for communities who want to restore their infrastructure but are not familiar with the grant writing process. And so you can hire our team to help your community do that. If you guys are familiar with Keachai, Kansas, there's a playhouse at the corner of 61st, I think in Woodlawn. Our grant writing team wrote a grant to help them with that infrastructure project. So those are examples of some grant writing services that we provide. And then the final service we provide is small business loans. And that's the team that I oversee. There are many entrepreneurs who are seeking small business loans, and they're just unable to gain that traditional commercial loan. A statistic recently that I saw, and don't quote me because I could be wrong, but it was somewhere around only like 15 to 17% of entrepreneurs across the US are getting approved with a traditional commercial loan. So what happens to all those other people who need a loan to start, expand, or grow their small business? They're coming to people like SCED. They're coming to nonprofits who are approved to provide small business administration loans. Our team is a mix of professionals. So we've got young professionals like Tyler and more experienced professionals like myself who can give you a mix of speed in the application process, but also a level of expertise as you're looking to grow your small business or start it. Raven, tell us a little bit about your program.
Okay, what I will do is tell you a little bit about consumer credit counseling, and then I'll let Aaron and Rodney tell you a little bit more about what specifically they do, okay? So our mission statement here at Consumer Credit Counseling is to empower individuals through education and counseling to make sound financial decisions. But we also like to make sure that everyone is prosperous and everyone is very confident in their own financial future. So we sit back and we offer budgeting classes, some sort of insight as to maybe things that they could do to help with their budgeting or financial problems that they might have going on. We understand that finances can be very overwhelming. And our two counselors that are here today have been here for a long time, maybe more than 10 years each. And they have had a lot of opportunity to understand the financial aspects of people's personal finances. And I'm going to let them specifically talk about what they do and how they can help individuals. So let's see. Let's go alphabetical. Aaron, how about you
Okay.
first?
Hey, wonderful. All right. Well, I've been a counselor here for about 15 years, and I'm a financial professional and a HUD housing counselor. So basically, we're trying to teach, financial basics and budgeting to people and go over their financial situation. And usually with their situations, it's not going to be the greatest situations. And we're just trying to create options. We're going through pros and cons. We're not leading anybody into one direction. We're trying to give them the information so they can make a decision on their own. So being a financial professional, I generally see maybe about 4 or 6 clients a day. And then I also teach classes as well. And so these sessions, it's pretty wide array of situations. So the situations are never the same. And but we're just here to try to maybe coach them up, maybe educate, come up with options, and try to hold their hand as they're going through it, because it's a pretty difficult thing to talk about finances. And there's a lot of emotions that come with this. And so, talking to, I know with Rodney here, I mean, I've never met a man nicer than Rodney, and I'm not kidding. And I try to be kind and nice to everybody as well. And that's number one. You got to be apathetic to people's situations. And so really enjoy my job. I can't see myself doing anything else. But yeah, you got to have an understanding where people are coming from, and you're just trying to help them through it. And so, yeah, this is the job for me. So.
Aaron, we can really relate to that. As a young professional for Tyler assisting me with the volume of business development that comes in, I think he can attest that, there are tough questions that we have to walk through: bankruptcy, divorces, tax liens. I mean, you name it. I mean, you're coming to us and we're really looking at all of those things. And so it's certainly sensitive topics, but there's pretty much nothing we haven't seen yet, Tyler, I think. We're here and we're your trusted advisors and we're here to help. So I really appreciate that insight, Aaron.
Thank you.
Rodney?
Oh my goodness. I could say ditto to what Aaron said. I've been here about 24 years. And so my thoughts have always been, I came from the lending side and collection side originally. And so I feel like in many ways we bring hope to a lot of situations where, as Aaron said, money is so frustrating, it's so emotional. And when you're in the thick of things, it's hard to think about, what do I do? And so we're able to step in and as Aaron said, talk about options, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. The road might be rough for a while, but we can get through this. And a lot of times it's us working together with our client and showing them that this is possible and helping them down that road to a point where now they're able to take care of things on their own.
How long have you been doing counseling, Rodney?
Oh, well, since 97. Well, I started with the education department. So I was doing all the education, and then the counseling position came open. So I'm going to guess close to 23, 24 years of counseling.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Good. Well, I think it's great. I think you guys can kind of see we all have maybe different, but very similar professions. We're really all mission towards assisting those with whatever their next step is, right? Aaron, maybe someone's trying to purchase a home. Rodney, maybe just re-strengthening that credit history. And for Tyler and I, really just helping to turn that idea into reality for these small business owners. So I think it's really great that we've all teamed up today. What I'd like to do now is we're going to talk a little bit about SCED and what it takes in order for an entrepreneur to get a small business loan. I'm not going to go into detail too much today because I have other videos that I talk a lot about in terms of what it takes in order to get a business loan. So I'll keep it just as a recap quickly. All lending institutions, including SCED, are looking at 4 things. So we're looking at what your credit score is, your personal credit score. Our organization is looking for a credit score with 680 or higher. Banks are typically going to request 720 or higher. We're also looking to see if you have any skin in the game. So if you need $100,000 in order to start your business, you need to have at a maximum 15% in order to inject towards that project. We will be also looking at your background and your experience to make sure that it makes sense for you to start a business or this business. And then we're also going to be looking at your business model. And that includes your business plan and your financial projections. For the purpose of today's call, let's talk specifically about personal credit. And anyone from Consumer Credit Counseling Service, please jump in, raise your hand at any time. And Tyler, you as well. One of the things that I want to just start this with is to say, I believe that we have a misconception that when we file our LLC, that creates a veil between you as an individual and your business, but that is incorrect. So when you are applying for a small business loan, one of the first things that Tyler is performing for our organization is analyzing that credit report. And so we will be seeking your permission to run your credit report. And oftentimes the 2 critical documents that Tyler is performing for my review is analyzing the personal financial statement and analyzing your credit score. So what are we doing with those 2 things, right? So Tyler, what he's doing is he's helping me to summarize whether or not you can take on this amount of debt based off of your net worth. If you're trying to seek $1 million loan, but you own no home or no property, you're probably not going to get that far. And then he's also looking and analyzing your credit report. Tyler, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you're aware of what's on your report as well. That's something that we're, there may be negative entries, but being able to provide an explanation about why those occurred, particularly if they're in the past, because we're going to be going back, and as far as the report will permit us to, and if there's a delinquency on there, we're going to want you to be able to explain why that exists.
And that's very common, Tyler, right? I mean, even if there is negative, he will work with you and request a narrative. And we have had those instances recently where there were some negative entries that we've proceeded with analyzation of a loan.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely doesn't immediately disqualify you. So you shouldn't be discouraged just because in the past you've had some issues, but it's that you're working to address those issues or have addressed those issues and can explain to us how you're avoiding those situations currently, or what steps you're taking to avoid those situations. So
anyone from the Consumer Credit Counseling Service that would like to add in some comments?
Yeah, I mean, often we'll see clients that, they have an emphasis on the negative reporting, which, that is important. But we also got to talk about the positives too. And so, this is just a mathematical formula over your totality that you're dealing with, finances, how well you're paying and, utilizing your credit. And so, so we often talk about, hey, how do you improve your score? How do you get started? And so we have some partnerships there with some local credit unions like Mid-American Credit Union, and there's a lot more credit unions out there. And that could be a great start. You go open up an account with a small bank account or credit union to get started. They may not be able to help with your credit initially, but they will over time. And then also secured credit cards are also good too.
That's a really good point, Aaron, because we've actually touched a lot of people who just don't have an established credit history. They're just, there's nothing on it. So that's good to know that if everyone didn't hear that, there are credit unions where you can go and they can help you establish that. And then Aaron would be a great resource for you guys all to connect with too.
I'd like to jump in really quick, Natalie. One of the things I was on a meeting for last week was the United Way of the Plains has started a Bank One coalition, which will mean that a lot more banks within the Wichita area will now be offering opportunities for those without checking, savings, or secured credit cards to come in and talk to more professionals and more banks here in the area for that kind of stuff.
That's great, Raven. Thank you so much for making that. Tyler and I can already think of a couple of people that will be sending over to that program. So I think that is great. And hopefully we can get on board with United Way's initiatives. Rodney, anything you want to add to the discussion?
I'll add one thing that I see quite often is someone applying for a mortgage, car loan, and the first time they see their credit report is when they're at the lender's office.
Yeah.
And it is so much easier. It's less stressful if you can pull that beforehand. And it's federal law that you can get a free copy of your credit report every year. And the website the government set up for was annualcreditreport.com. And so you don't get your score, but you're going to actually see what's in that credit report at no cost. And there's 3 major credit bureaus. So you can get a report from Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax and see, is everything accurate? Is there negative items on there? Are things on there longer than they should be? So there's things that it's nice to know before you go talk to the lender. And
Rodney, I think that's the exact advice that we need is that annualcreditreporting.org website. Are there 2 other suggestions you might have for individuals in monitoring their credit report?
Now the website's annualcreditreport.com.
.com.
Yes. And so, because be careful, there's a lot of sites out there that says, here's a free credit report. But then you start getting tied in. Oh, they want your debit card, your credit card. Mm-hmm. Stay away from those.
Yeah.
Because you can get it actually for free. And because of COVID, right now, you can pull those reports for free every week through April. So we've still got a window of time. After that, if everything goes back to normal, it's once a year. And if you're wanting to monitor your credit report, you don't have to pull all 3 at the same time. So maybe you go in today and you pull Experian, wait a few months, pull TransUnion, wait 3 more months, get Equifax. And by the time the next 3 months has gone by, it's another year, you can start over. Let's go back and you get Experian.
I think that's.
Go ahead,
sorry.
Tyler.
That is such a great service to have, because I think a lot of people concentrate so much on the score and not as much on the details of the report, which are or what make the score. So we deal with people that come in and they weren't aware of a delinquency that existed, or they weren't aware that the credit card was still open. So I think that's a great resource.
Can someone from your team talk to us about what's the difference between those 3, Experian, TransUnion? Can you just at a high level tell us why those 3 exist and what they mean?
Well, Rodney, I don't know if we can teamwork this one or not, but I'd imagine it has something to do with transparency. I mean, you don't want to have all of our credit reporting to one agency, so that's why we have 3. But these are for-profit entities. Okay, these are all for-profit, and then you have your score itself, which there's a number of scores out there. Companies may have their own internal scores. You may have like Credit Karma, that's the advantage scoring model. So there's just a bunch of them out there, but FICO is generally, I don't know if that's what you guys use, but that's generally what we come by is FICO.
Yeah. And not everyone reports to all 3 credit bureaus. So you also run into, oh, my loan is on Experian, but it's not on TransUnion. And so then people get, it's confused. It's almost a game you know, it's figuring out, okay, who reports to what, and that affects each score on each report. And so it's knowing how the system works that helps.
That helps. That was a great explanation. It's pulling from each of those three major agencies to just give you a fair chance at being represented. So I think that's great. Again, as Rodney said, you have the ability to run an annual credit report, and we'll put all that information up on our Facebook page. And Tyler, if you could accurately put that web address in the chat for people to reference, because I sometimes have a tendency to mix things up, that would be great. So a lot of resources. As we continue on this discussion, let's talk a little bit about meeting the criteria of lending institutions. And so many banks are going to require that you have a 720 or higher credit score. Our organization is a nonprofit, and so we will take on some of the risk, but our board has set some expectations. So we really typically will only work with people who have a 680 or higher credit score. If you have the makeup of potentially a good application, we might work with you if you're under that 680. It really, like Tyler has said, what was going on? He's going to be asking you really tough questions. You're going to have to sit down with us and probably go through some of those questions that Aaron and Rodney are having to have with their clients. What happened in that divorce, or what is the plan with the divorce? What happened with that medical incident, that bankruptcy? Those are things that we're having to assess to determine next steps. But I will say, one of the things that we stress is it's not a no forever. So this is kind of like your diet plan. You've got to figure out what the problem is. And you've got to create a path forward to remediate it. And that's where the consumer credit counseling service comes in. So I see some really cool projects, but the individual just isn't there yet on their credit score. And so I'm sending them to people like Rodney and Aaron. And so can you guys speak to me a little bit about, let's just say Tyler wanted to start a business, but his credit score was at 610. And he looked like a good project, and I wanted to see him get stronger. And I told Tyler, you know what, let's get you connected with SCORE, which is business mentors here in Wichita. Or let's get you with the Kansas Small Business Development Center, Tyler. Let's get you working on your business plan and your financial projections. And then let's have you go and work with the consumer credit counseling to strengthen your credit score. Let's do a 12 to 18 month plan, and then you come back to SCED and reapply. So what would that look like from consumer credit counseling service? If Tyler came, was at about a 610, what kind of services could you guys offer to him to strengthen it?
Well, what we do is we do credit report reviews. And so these are counseling sessions that just one-on-one, and we go in there and we pull up the credit report. And so we want to teach them first about what these reports are. What are the components of the report? You're going to have your personal information, then you're going to have the negative reporting if there are any, and most likely there is, and then you have your positive. And so we're going to, teach them about, hey, this is what affects your credit score. And so we want to talk about how to deal with these negative accounts, and these creditors. So we also want to make sure that we don't have any debts that could cause some problems later on, and for some processes, for some creditors, if you have a collection account, let's say with a credit card, they may not be able to assist you further at that time. And so coming to us, we can say, hey, well, if we have to deal with this collection account, here are some options. We can either help them set up on a payment plan. We can look into settlements. Also, it could be a mistake. If it's a mistake, if it's an inaccuracy, well, we can teach them how to dispute it, or maybe do it for them. We can do that there in that session. And then we always ask the clients to come in to follow up so that we can go through it as we're help them. We want to see those changes as they progress through it. So, and it's all for free.
That's great. So how do people sign up with you guys? Is there a website? Do they call, email? How are you guys taking in all those referrals that we're sending to you guys?
I guess I can help answer that one. So they can go to our website and get some information about the office, but generally just call the agency. As Raven said, we have 2 locations, Salina and Wichita. So we're the same agency. So whoever calls, doesn't matter which location they get, we can schedule someone, whether it's Wichita or Salina. And I always tell people, do not lose sleep about the appointments. Aaron's not too mean to people. It's pretty easygoing, and we're there to help look for options.
And I just dropped their name, website, and telephone number and address in the chat for everyone to reference. So you guys talked about earlier that you guys have webinars too. Do you guys post announcements on Facebook, for your website, or how do people learn about those as well?
I'll jump in very quickly and then I'm going to hand it over. In the past, we've tried to post things on Facebook. We also have a LinkedIn website. We try to distribute as much information as we can out to the public so that everyone knows about it. One of the things during COVID that we have been doing, is we haven't been doing a whole lot of in-person. So if you call up and you need a counselor, you want to come in and talk to someone, maybe you're in Wichita, but Rodney is available and he's in Salina. We can do a Zoom meeting. We can do a team meets, get you two connected so that at least you have an introduction. And I personally would rather have an internet counseling session than a phone. I want to know who I'm talking to. I want to see a face. So those work out really well. And we are doing a lot of different classes via Zoom. I'll let Rodney talk about some of the ones that he does and Aaron talk about his. But we are trying to find ways to offer more classes over the internet for people who are interested. So I will pass it off to you, Rodney.
Okay. Well, right now I'm doing a monthly first-time homebuyer education class. So we do talk about the finances, credit issues, everything from, hey, I think I want to buy a house and I think it's a good idea, all the way to now I've got the keys for the house and everything goes along with it. And so trying to plan ahead for those things. The other project I have working right now, kind of in the same line, is there are grant programs, assistance programs for people with down payment and closing costs.
Oh,
so, yeah, so the end of March 31st, I don't have a flyer yet, but my plan is we're going to get the Federal Home Loan Bank, Kansas Housing Resource Corporation, and another program down in Hutchinson called CASH, Individual Development Account. We're going to do a Zoom meeting. So whether you're thinking about buying a home or you're a lender or a real estate agent, that you know what resources are out there.
Great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look at, with Zoom I'm kind of new to this Zoom or the Microsoft, and I think it's positive. I think it's more of a way to connect. And, I'll be honest, I'm really nervous with Zoom. I don't know what it is. Like, I can do in-person counseling sessions. I can do classes in person. I'm okay. But this, I'm a little nervous. So I don't know what it is. But so, as I'm learning this, I'm sure we're going to be more involved with, Zoom or the phone classes or just trying to meet what the clients need. And so I teach basically 2 classes for now, and it may get more as time goes on, but one right now is just doing a basic budgeting course that I do every 2 weeks. Okay, so it's just teaching about, planning, increasing your income. And so since we're talking about increasing income, that's maybe where SCED can come in to help with that too, with some ideas if they're wanting to become self-employed. And then also reducing expenses. And then another class that I do bankruptcy classes. It's another service that we do offer as well. It's through the court system, the EOUST, the Federal Bankruptcy Court. And so I do teach those classes as well. So.
Really great synergies. We can think of a lot of different things that we can, or projects that we can kind of maybe bounce off with you guys offline, but really good resources. I didn't realize that. So, I think it's really important that we all expand our knowledge. I was brought into SCED because I have a corporate background in project management and creating structured to undefined processes. I am not a finance guru, so I might even just sign up to one of their classes and kind of have them read me my credit report so that I can really give you guys, which what we're passionate about, a real life interpretation of what it's like to go through them. So Tyler knows that I spend a lot of time, my specialty is financial projections. Although I'm not a banker and I don't have a commercial lending background, I do specialize in project management and then forecasting for small businesses. And Tyler sees a lot that I'm more interested in educating entrepreneurs on what they can really take on, the debt they can take on in terms of how much sales they're going to have to produce. Than I am about trying to make a loan. So we spend a lot of time educating them on their financial projections and walking them through the reality of what it's going to take to operate the business. So my conversations are not always the funnest to have, but I do make sure that, I'm educating and being honest with you guys. So just to kind of recap all the things that we're talking about, having a personal credit score, a strong personal credit score is important, whether you're trying to purchase that home or purchase a car or start a small business or expand it. It is really the footprint of who you are as an individual. SCED is here to assist you with the feasibility analysis of, can I walk away from my job and start this business? That's what Tyler and I do all the time. We're running financial projections and we're assessing. As we've learned today, the consumer credit counseling services is there to assist you if you need a little bit of homework, if you need a reality check, if you're like myself, you maybe have never really sat down with someone like Rodney or Aaron and had them read you your credit report. As scary as that might feel, I think it's something that all of us really need to take seriously and take advantage of that great resource that we have in our community. So SCED is here for you if you're interested in starting or expanding your small business. Tyler or myself can be contacted. Our emails are up there. And Tyler, if you could please drop a direct line in so people can call us as well, that would be great. Maybe also our website as well, with a direct link to our business loans. And then, I think Raven, I appreciate you bringing your staff. This has been such a great discussion. Do you guys have anything that you'd like to add before we kind of wrap up? Or questions for our team even? We haven't even given you guys that chance.
Natalie, I will throw out there that for a lot of people, we think we know how to budget. We think we have our budget under control. I've only been in this position for 30 days, 45 days now. And right before I started, I took one of the classes, and the executive director that retired set down a budget book in front of me, and I looked at that and I felt overwhelmed. But I went home and I actually sat through it and I did it. And it took a while, but I had so much of a better understanding of where my money was going. And I actually made some shifts based on what that came out to look like. And I think that sometimes we just get so much into living day by day that we forget. So, hey, we spent $6 on a Starbucks today. I could have put that in a savings account.
Yeah.
So we forget the little things, and we're more about impulse right now because there's so much out of control with COVID, and I think we just don't feel like we have enough control of our lives, but we do have control over our money, and we may not be spending that in a way that helps us be successful in the future. And that's what our professional staff is here for. We're here to help you take a look at what your day-to-day looks like so that you can see for yourself where you might be able to make some shifts to meet a goal that you might have for yourself in the future. So don't be afraid to call us. Rodney and Aaron appointments. They'll make room for you. And we don't charge to sit down and talk to one of our counselors. Even if you just have a simple question that you need answered, give us a call and we'll try to get you in touch with a counselor. And I'll leave it to Aaron and Rodney.
Yeah, I mean, and Raven was talking about impulse. I know we're closing up here shortly, but this is not something that you want to, when you're going through your budgeting or through your credit reporting, you don't want to be impulsive with this. And an example is, I won't throw out any names, but there are companies out there that claim they can delete your negative reporting off your credit report. And so don't really recommend that. You know, they charge quite a bit, and it's just important to know that whatever dispute that you have, that's for free. You can dispute with that creditor or that credit reporting, all that's, you know, for free. So.
Very good.
I'm just curious. I have a question for you all. And something I'd thought about earlier would be how, through the last 2 years with this pandemic, how has that affected what you do? Are you seeing a difference in the amount of need?
So we have not experienced an impact in small business lending. In fact, we have been at capacity. So Kansas entrepreneurs are still out there starting, expanding, growing their small business. In fact, my team is overseeing the largest loan that SCED has ever originated in its history. So we are overseeing a $15 million expansion in McPherson, Kansas. So they are at it, and we are working, like I had mentioned with another individual momentarily ago. I'm meeting frequently with our team about every 2 days because our pipeline is so busy right now. And so we're just constantly managing projects and what's coming in and who's doing what. And so we talked earlier about loan approval rates. So loan approval rates in our region, this is not statistical by any nature. This is just my own qualitative analysis. The banks in South Central Kansas have been very fickle and very up and down. Some days their doors are open and sometimes they're closed. So what I have consistently seen is they're not willing to turn projects away completely or say no. So we're doing a lot of collaborative loans. So maybe the bank can only take on 20% of a $300,000 project. And then we just kind of create a pie and everyone takes a slice of the pie. And that's how we're making these projects move forward. So there's a lot of probably outside the box creative lending that we're doing. SCED has also brought in 2 new loan programs that they never had before. So we're able now to fund new projects that we've never been able to do at higher levels, which is, we really needed it in this region. So SCED had a reputation of really providing micro loans, but now we do larger loans up to 300,000. There's a really big need for that space of 75,000 up to 300. So we do a lot of that as well. So we haven't yet experienced a slowdown, but I will say, Rodney, one of the things that keeps me up at night is just kind of what's going to happen after all this federal aid passes. It has felt as if there's been Band-Aids. You all may not know, but the SBA provided relief payments, which Tyler beautifully oversaw because that was a lot of paperwork and coordination. My concern has always been, well, what happens after they stop making those free payments? And how is it going to kind of rebound? And so right now, I think we're kind of still in the let's wait and see phase. If you were hurting before the pandemic, you're going to be worse off probably now. But it's kind of just a wait and see. We're seeing some of our businesses, though, who started during the pandemic, they're doing great, but then others who could never get the door open. So like Aaron said, nothing is identical. It's kind of a case-by-case scenario. I will say, though, I think Rodney and your team, you guys did a great job explaining about the cost for your service. Our business development services are free to Kansas entrepreneurs. We only work directly with the Kansas small business owner. We can't work with the marketing individual or the accountant or those sorts of things. We work directly with the business owner. But our loans are required to be paid back. They are federal loans. They are not grants. I have been working in the entrepreneurial space for about 10 years now. And the grants that I've seen, and I'm not a grant expert for small businesses, are typically in the areas of science and technology. And they're typically at the federal level, and they're tough, they're competitive, and they're limited. So if you're a mom and shop trying to buy the donut shop in Anthony, Kansas, there's typically not going to be grants for you in that space. Again, grants for small business owners are typically in that technology space at the federal level. So we do provide business loans. They are expected to be repaid. They are low interest and fixed. So you're not going to see some of them might have a variable rate, but you're working with the federal government. So they're not going to be really high spikes. So that's just a little bit about us. I'm so glad that we all took the time today to connect. And I hope that this is the start of more collaborative meetings. And I hope that you guys will allow Tyler and I to kind of be guinea pigs and really go through that process so that we can share our experience with our applicants.
I think it would be a wonderful idea, Natalie, for both you and Tyler to make appointments and work with Rodney and Aaron to look over your own personal finances and see where that goes. You may be setting great, but it will be a great experience for everyone involved.
It sounds a little scary, like Zoom is for Aaron, but I think I'm going to do it because you did a great job today, Aaron. I wouldn't even see that you were shy. So thank you, everyone. Please contact us. We hope you found this information helpful. And in the coming months, Sked will be bringing some HR, legal, and whatever other topics you guys ask for. So thank you guys, and we'll see you later. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.